The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it, midweek editions here at Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Hope you're doing all right. Gorgeous day in eastern Nebraska. Finally. Big baseball game tonight at Haymarket. Big baseball game for Junior, as it's the city championship, at least here in Lincoln. So I will go sweat that one out, but plenty of room for you to get in. And a fun show planned. We'll dive into a ton of topics. Mike Babcock going to be with us in about 15 minutes or so. We'll talk to Babbers, get his thoughts as we look towards, some movement for summertime. We got a little bit of a window here for Nebraska football to take a breath before summertime. We'll talk with Babbers there, get his take on Golden State. Of course, he is the biggest Warriors guy there is, and it goes back a ways. He's not just on the bandwagon because of Steph Curry. Mike Schuhart, Wilderness Ridge Golf. Shuey going to be with us and back at it at 4:40. And then Evan Bland joins us at 5. Numbers to dial up at 489-1240, 489-1240 to get involved. Can also join us via the stream, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, and the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed as well at HVarsity Radio. You can email the show, Chris at hailvarsity.com. Some topics, the depth chart, the offense. But this is kind of a fun off-season topic. Got to give plenty of credit to our friends at Husker Guys, their Twitter handle. And, of course, they're behind Pipeline Jerky. A couple of weeks ago, we were able to spend time with them for the Pipeline event up at the Hail Varsity Club. So it was incredible. So that was awesome. And it was on full display, their question of the day. And that question is, if you could have a beer with a former Husker, have a drink, who would it be? And all those guys from the Pipeline, man, they were so awesome to the fans that came out and spent time with them, not only with autograph sessions, but also the table set up where it was a Q&A session with Nebraska fans. So it was really, really pretty cool. You had a moment, you ever been able to sit down with an Avs player or a baseball hero or somebody?
Well, I told you about the time I saw Jamal Murray in Vegas like 2 months ago, right?
Right. And you were trying to let the public know he was out in Vegas.
Not really. No,
you just said, "Hey, dude, what's up?"
Yeah, pretty much.
And you got the stare.
He gave me like a little head nod and a nod of acknowledge of my existence, and then he moved on. He didn't say anything to me. He's like, "I'm trying to enjoy my night, you ass." But other than that, like, things were good. That's like probably. I mean, I'm not big on celebrity encounters. Like, if I see somebody at like a sporting event or across the way, I'll be like, "Oh, that's cool. There's whoever." Yeah, the only time I went out and like really tried to go meet a celebrity was, this would have been 2018, I think. Mm-hmm. Bill Murray was in town for a Husker football game.
Okay.
And back then I was working for Husker Vision, and for whatever reason, all the student employees of Husker Vision had the all access stadium pass. I could go wherever I want to. And we heard, oh yeah, Bill Murray's going back taking a tour of the locker rooms right now. So I'm like, freshman in college Elijah, I'm gonna go back to the locker rooms. I got the all access pass. I go back to the locker rooms and I like walked past Bill Murray. I also didn't say anything. I didn't want to bother him. He was like on a little guided tour, so I wasn't going to bother him, but went back and saw Bill Murray. That's the closest I've gotten to like actually going and seeking out a celebrity encounter. But the older I get, the more I realize celebrities are just people that are usually good at one specific thing.
My buddy Jeff, who I go see Dave Matthews shows with, I've also seen Pearl Jam with him. He was trying to talk me into seeing Pearl Jam at Wrigley. And this is probably 8, 9, 10 years ago. And he has incredible ticket hookups. Mm-hmm. I mean, he has always gotten good seats. And I just said, no, it's fall camp. I better be around. Not that he should have gone to the show, because he sat next to Rodman and Kirk Heinrich.
Oh,
I mean, he was just like right next to him the entire show. And he's not a jock sniffer, but it would have been cool. It would have been really cool to see Rodman nerd out to Pearl Jam because that's his band. That's his band. But no, it's fun to talk to guys that have been in the media a long time and just the encounters, kind of the quiet moments. And before I got into media, this is no joke. This is really something I'll remember the rest of my life. It was really awesome. I mentioned cousin Dino a lot. He passed away, but he is a big Nebraska fan and really close with my dad. And cousin Dino always got VIP. And hell or high water, Dino had 100 or two to slip a door, man. So it's after the Orange Bowl. It's after the Orange Bowl. It's after the 98 Orange Bowl. Nebraska beats Tennessee. And I think the Fountain Blue is the hotel in Miami, Nebraska we're staying at. This is before I jumped into broadcasting. So the whole family's down at the Orange Bowl is, we went and went to Nebraska games our entirety growing up. And had West balcony seats, and cousin Dino would come in for the Oklahoma game every year. And a lot of times there'd be tears. Either he bet on Oklahoma, had tears of joy, or Nebraska would win. But Dino got us in the back. We walk in, and it's players and coaches and families. And I walk up 3 feet inside the door, and it's the giant Orange Bowl trophy with those plastic oranges, and who's standing there but Milt Tenniper and Charlie McBride, and they're just kind of grinning. What a season it's been. All right, you sent out Coach Osborne the right way, and I'm not going to indict either the late great Milt or Uncle Charlie, but one of them asked if I was thirsty. So technically, yeah, you're standing around with 2 legendary coaches, and you're cracking a Busch Light. So that I always smile about that. Back to the Husker guys question, what former Husker would you have a drink with? The other guy that was great, and this is when I started broadcasting, and I think the statute of limitations is passed by now, but the old broadcasting college was in Avery Hall, which was right next to the stadium. Well, Danny Nee was just awesome to us. For whatever reason, just because Danny was fun. Growing up, Danny'd always throw beers with people down in the pit at Barry's after a win. He was great, and he'd smooth talk, and all of a sudden, half of Lincoln's going to the Big 8 tournament. Well, we're playing at 10:45. Doesn't matter. Get down to Kemper. Well, Danny brought a 6-pack of tall boys for us as we're doing our college radio show. This is like the second year I'm doing a college radio show at KRNU. He comes up, we're doing the Monday show 7 to 9. It was me and Kranak, and it was just cool. So that was fun to talk Husker basketball with Coach Nee, and he brought a gift for us.
And now that I think, in terms of former Huskers, this had been back in middle school. Alfonso Dinner was still going. Nebraska was playing, and somehow a few of my friends got into his little gaming circle as like middle schoolers.
Oh, wow.
They'd play Madden with Alfonso Dinner every single weekend. So I got to play, I think it was a game of 2K against Alfonso Dinner once back in the day. But to the question, who would I sit down and have a beer with? I think from a business point of view, what I do for a living, the answer is easy. It's Trev Alberts.
Sure.
I go get a beer with Trev Alberts and see what information I can glean. That's the easy answer.
The key is to not make it that, right? I mean, work off to the side and just enjoy the time. But I get what you're saying.
From a non-business sense, I got to go with somebody from my childhood watching. Probably Niles Paul's up there in terms of the Huskers I really liked. Rex Burkhead, obviously, be a great one to sit down with. Will Compton, not because of his success on the field, but also the Bussin' with the Boys podcast. Be fun to sit down with him. There's some good ones from my childhood that I'd like to sit down with.
2 guys that are my favorites still, and this was after a football game in the fall. They were back. They had a bye week. Jake Cotton and Searles. They just drug this old man down to O Street.
That's got to be a fun.
It was fun. And Butch was just Butch being Butch. It was a party. So I smile about that, but send your emails in.
Oh, another one that we haven't mentioned here, probably because it's a little close for us. Dr. Rob Zadisco. What a great guy to grab a beer.
Dr. Rob's he's top 2 on everyone's list because he's so personable, and he's a fairy nectar guy. And once in a while, when we're up in Omaha, you bump into him, and it's great. But no, I'll say this: the Nebraska fan base, blessed for years with high achievers on the field, but really good dudes off the field that love to interact and spend time with fans. One guy that's always been incredible to people is Mike Rozier. He is just out and about. He's pretty visible, and he's always got a smile and willing to take a picture. I just witnessing that. I've never asked Michael Heisman for a picture, but the way fans still gravitate towards him, he's really, really cool.
Him and Johnny Rogers both. That now reminds me of the time at the College World Series. I was lucky enough to be next to the urinal that Johnny Rogers was using. I was using the one right next door, and we could have a little mini conversation.
Sure.
Just, oh, hey.
That's not awkward.
No, yeah. It was just, hey, what's up, Johnny?
Hey, Heisman. How's it going? Let's jump into.
How's it hanging?
No. Let's talk offense. So let's get back on track here. You dirty man. Let's get to depth chart. We'll talk with Mike Babcock here in a little bit. We'll take some more suggestions here off of that Twitter topic from the Husker guys. Husker you'd want to have a former Husker you'd want to have a drink with. But let's talk offense and dive into it with what do you think, right? You've had spring to digest. You have projections. Mitch Sherman told us yesterday about the depth chart story he put out there, and it's really very thorough. And it's a good question. Who's in line to help quarterback Jeff Sims? And when I envision this offense and what it wants to be physical. It wants to be able to run the football when it has to, not just when it wants to. And as much as Coach Rule's talked about passing with a purpose, I hearken back to the play action game with Nebraska and how they're able over the years, even though they weren't a passing team, but they were able to sting defenses with play action and get one-on-one coverage. So, they're going to try and lean on the run. They're going to try and let the quarterback be a playmaker, and who's going to be around to help with that. It's really going to come down to that offensive line gelling, getting a healthy Teddy, figuring out what you got at guard, because you got three candidates. You got Nuri that's back. You got Piper that is returned. You've got Corcoran that is super talented, and you're waiting to see him have a breakout season. Scott at center, and then Benhart's a guy that really got quite a bit of accolades from a progress standpoint. And we've seen this offensive line play too early in their career, and we've seen this offensive line be asked to pass protect in a pro-style offense because under whip it was pass first, second, and third, and maybe you'll run a draw. So you flip it around. Can you do what you say you want to do? And that's, can you be dominant running the football? And I don't know yet, Elijah, if Nebraska's got the backs to be dominant in running the football, but is it going to be a situation where the line's good enough to just hand off and sprinkle in Sims versus have a healthy dose of Sims, a third of the run game accounting with your quarterback? And I'm probably really too high with that number, but 2/3 running back run game, a third of the quarterback. And we know that they'll want to factor in the tight ends and get some mismatches that way. I think Nebraska's roster looks good. You just don't have a lot of eye test to go off of. It's strictly projection. You're expecting or wanting the offensive line to make a jump. All right, how does Sims settle in as the quarterback starter? Does he stay healthy? And does he make a jump from an accuracy standpoint? We know he's a big play guy. And then from a wide receiver standpoint, you've seen some glimpses of Betts because he's an explosive difference maker. Kemp, at least off of the spring game, we think he can be pretty big. And then there's Marcus Washington, who's a giant target and super talented. So the pieces are there. Is it able to come together in a year one? And what's your health look like through the rigors of a 12-game schedule and really a tough Big Ten slate?
And whenever you go back and look at South Carolina's offense from last year, I think while Nebraska's offense probably not going to look identical to South Carolina's offense, good place to start in terms of what is this offense going to look like next season. And with South Carolina last year, they really used two running backs for the most part all year long. That is until Marshawn Lloyd, their starter, got hurt, and they had to throw, I believe it was Christian Beal-Smith in there as I look at the stats. But Marshawn Lloyd, had 111 attempts for 573 yards as their starting running back. You compare that to the next leading rusher, 73 rushes for Jaheim Bell. That's interesting because Jaheim Bell was a fullback and tight end for the South Carolina offense. Kind of one of those versatile Swiss Army knife guys.
Right. The versatile H-back hybrid.
Similar to what we saw from Bonner in the spring game. I wonder if that's going to be the role for him where, yeah, some plays he's going to be split out as a tight end, other plays he's going to be back in the backfield. But he got 73 carries for 261 yards. And for reference, that is the exact same number of carries that Spencer Rattler got last season. So the fullback and the quarterback were equal in terms of touches. They both outpaced the second running back on that roster, Juju McDowell, by about 10 carries. So in terms of a split, there's a 1A guy. Then you have your quarterback and your running back who are also getting attempts. Then you have a 1B guy that comes in. So I think that's going to be the goal for Nebraska as they get through to summer ball, determining who that 1A guy is going to be. And then what's the split going to be? Because I tend to believe that Nebraska has a very close race between Anthony Grant and Gabe Irvin in terms of who's going to be the 1A guy. I could see them using a guy like Gabe Irvin. If you have him in the offense, you use him just a little bit more. Maybe use him as a fullback, use some 2 running back sets, or use him in that sense. I wonder because I can see Nebraska using both running backs. I would think, though, that Anthony Grant, 62 carries on the year, that'd be about 5 carries a game. I can see him getting a few more touches than that. But I think that's a good place to start in terms of what is his offense going to look like and how's his depth chart going to shape out.
We'll get into this with Mike Babcock. Hail Varsity continues on a Wednesday. We're presented by Currency.
Hail Varsity Club in La Vista is the perfect place to go for lunch every day. Dine in at the club and get our express lunch special for just $10. It's the all-beef Hail Varsity burger, fries, and a fountain drink delivered to your table in under 15 minutes. Hail Varsity Club in La Vista for lunch every day. And the perfect spot to watch all the big games. Reserve your table today and check out the events we've got coming up at hailvarsityclub.com. In La Vista, right next to Cabela's. Hail Varsity Club. Hail Varsity is a must-have for true Husker fans. Get a monthly magazine that'll make checking the mail fun again. Daily analysis and breaking news, including the inside scoop on recruiting on hailvarsity.com. And every June, you'll get the Nebraska Football Yearbook, a season preview completely dedicated to Nebraska football that's as comprehensive as national previews. Use that promo code AR for monthly subscriptions, that yearly promo code DB at hailvarsity.com.
You wash your hands, you brush your teeth, but how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, flushing out allergens, mucus, and germs. And it's why cleaning your nose, the body's air filter, is the next evolution in daily personal hygiene. Navage helps you breathe better, sleep deeper, and snore less. But the biggest payoff is improved health. At Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
I'm in the car next to you on the highway. I sit in front of you on the bus. I'm 1 out of every 6 Americans, and I'm struggling with hunger. This isn't an uncontrollable epidemic. There's enough food in this country to feed every hungry person. Please, visit feedingamerica.org today and find your local food bank. Every dollar you donate.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Big thanks for spending time. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. Schmidt and Elijah Herbel. Welcome in historian, author, Hall of Famer Mike Babcock with us at MD Babs on Twitter. Babbers, how we doing?
I'm doing fine. I think I looked better last week when I was just more or less a blank screen, but I turned on some lights this week.
You know what? You can do a darkness retreat if you want. You can put the lights up. I got to ask you this, and
there it goes again. We had that last week.
That
the old
is so
landline.
good.
I respect Mike.
I love it.
I respect Mike for still rocking with the landline here in 2020.
That's so good. That's so good. Babbers is on. Let's call him. I got to ask you, and we're working on landing him. We'll see if that happens. But ESPN's going to do a 30 for 30 on Bill Walton. Is that something you'd watch?
Yeah, I'd be interested in watching something like that. He's tall, but he's also larger than life kind of character.
Fascinating, isn't he?
Yes, he is. To listen to him ramble when he does a basketball telecast is quite an experience. So yeah, I'd be interested in seeing what he had to say.
That's kind of where I'm at. It just his joy for things and the fact he's doing a lot better health-wise with some of those different surgeries between feet and back has been an issue for him in his career and post-career. But Bill's always found a way to feel good, but he's feeling really good just from a body standpoint as he gets a little bit older.
And the other one, so this could be a two-part that premieres in June, Bill Walton, and then later this summer, ESPN announcing earlier today, they're going to have a 30 for 30 documentary called The Minister of Defense on Reggie White, which is also going to be very, very interesting. So a couple of good 30 for 30s coming. Schmidt and I, we both love the 30 for 30 series, and I'm hyped for what this summer could be with those two.
Those are pretty good. I don't know that they'll do a 30 for 30 on the 2023 Nebraska offense, Mike, but let's dive into outlook here as you kind of go through post-spring here. We like what we see in Sims with his athletic ability and what he can do to stress the defense, but are you optimistic about what the offense can do and some of the pieces they have?
Yeah, but as we've always talked, this is the time for optimism.
Pump the brakes.
I think obviously Sims showed some things in the spring that convinced Casey Thompson that he should move on, that Sims might be the guy. Appears that that's going to be the case. And I think you guys have got it right there. Whether it's going to be Irvin or Grant is going to be they're 1A and 1B. Which one's going to be which is still up for grabs probably. But and then you put those guys behind an offensive line that I think is going to be improved and very focused on what it's supposed to do. And that what it's supposed to do is to be physical and to focus on the run first. To be able to run the football, you've got to be able to do that. I think you're in a good place there, and not to dismiss the ability to throw the ball to receivers and tight ends. I think tight ends are going to be a big part of what they do. From a blocking standpoint and from a receiving standpoint. And they've got some potential there, I think, for receivers. I think it was good that Betts came back. I'm interested to see what Billy Kemp IV can add to this offense, in addition to his ability to return punts. I think there's reason for optimism, but again, this is the time where you're going to be optimistic. And we'll see when they take the field against Minnesota what exactly that reflects.
Mike Babcock's with us here at Hail Varsity Radio. And Mike, over the past, I'd venture to say 7 or 8 seasons, the most important position on Nebraska's offense has been the quarterback. That's who the offense has run through with the past first West Coast Mike Riley era teams, then with Scott Frost as well, with how the quarterback ran that offense. I want to get your thoughts on what Matt Rule and Marcus Satterfield are going to prioritize in their offense moving forward. Do you think the quarterback is still going to be the most important position on the field? That's why we talk so much about Casey Thompson, Jeff Sims, and that battle and the importance of Casey going into the portal. But do you think that the quarterback is going to be the most important position in this offense moving forward?
Yeah, I think it has to be in just about any offense these days. The quarterback has to be the guy. He has to make the decisions. The thing that has been pointed out before is that Kemp has the ability to run the football as well. So that gives you another opportunity to run the football. Decision making begins with that guy, who to hand it to, or is it a position where you need to make a throw? He's got to be able to throw the football. You've got to have that ability at some point. Just because you say your emphasis is on the running game, that doesn't dismiss the importance of being able to throw it. So, I think it still starts with him. On one level. On another level, it starts with the guys up front. If the offensive line doesn't get the job done, then it doesn't. It puts tremendous pressure on the quarterback. It makes it difficult to run the football. All these things, it just is magnified by the fact that the offensive line doesn't get the job done. So, on one level, I'm saying the quarterback, it's on him, but on another level, it can't be on him if the guys up front aren't doing the job. And I feel good about the potential there.
Mike, would you entertain additions here before fall with some position groups from a transfer standpoint? Would you take another D lineman if it felt right? Would you take another offensive lineman or wide receiver? Heck, even a quarterback? Not that you will, but I'm saying let's just play hypothetical. Would you add to the room if somebody really wanted to join the Matt Rule squad?
Well, I think you would. I don't know. Are they down to the 85 now?
I don't truly know the number. I think they're probably there, but I think they're probably still over. I mean, if they add folks, the old retirement plan's got to be invoked for some.
So kind of what you're saying is that according to an official roster, it'd still say they're over, but in the coaching staff's mind, they're probably under. Is that what you're saying?
I think they're probably where they need to be.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and okay, so I like what Matt Rule said. He said, "Hey, we're going to work with the guys that are here. That's our plan. That's what we're going to do." And I think that's obviously their focus. I think that you got to feel like you've got the players to get the job done right now. And if somebody comes along and says, "Hey, I'd like to go to Nebraska. I'd like to come in there," and you look at him and you say, "Hey, this guy's going to fit our system and he's going to make us better," yeah, I think you would add somebody. But the focus is on the guys that are here. I think that's as it should be at this point. And I really feel good that, that's Matt Rule's stated focus for him and his staff.
Mike Babcock's with us here at Hail Varsity Radio. And Mike, I want to switch gears here and talk about a topic that we opened up the show with. A lot of answers for you. I want to dive into your knowledge of Husker history. If you could sit down with any former Husker and have a beer, who would that Husker be?
Or a glass of tea or whatever your choice is.
Yeah.
Mike, you've spent a lot of time with Husker greats, and they've spent a lot of time with you.
Well, when your guys were talking about it, I started making a list of guys, and I'm on about the third page now of the list of players.
There's a lot of choices.
It's a tremendous thing, and I've said this before. It's one of the reasons that I've done this as long as I have is, the players that you've come in to associate with and the way that you're treated by those guys. Now, I'm not as involved as I used to be because, I'm kind of looking at it from afar, maybe more so as the editor and not the day-to-day beat person. But, there's just been so many players that have had, that I would add to that list. I really hesitate to name somebody because I don't want to disrespect any of these people. It's amazing to me. I'll give you an example, just a quick story. Rod Horn, a big defensive tackle back in the day, very good, played in the NFL with Cincinnati Bengals. Rod Horn, my son did a drawing in school. I don't remember what grade he was. It's not very far along. And he did a drawing of Rod Horn for some reason next to a tree. And Rod Horn was about twice as tall as the tree. And so I took the drawing to practice one night, and I gave it to Rod Horn when practice was over. And I said, "Hey, my son drew this. He kind of wanted you to have it. You don't have to take it or whatever. We can dispose. Oh no, I'll take the thing. So he took this picture that my son drew, and for some reason, at one point he said, when is your son's birthday? What day is it? And I told him when my son's birthday was. It was in the off season. He said, would you mind if I came to the birthday party?
That's awesome.
Just stop by. And I said, no, that would be great. He stopped by, and all the kids at the birthday party, they're like climbing on him and hanging from his arms and whatever. And we had a birthday cake that was in the shape, it was 2 sheet cakes, one of them cut in half, and it was made into sleeves on the other half, and it had his number on it. And we said, hey, would you like a piece of cake? Yeah, I'll take a piece of cake. He ate one of the sleeves of the cake, half of a sheet cake, whatever. But that reflects how long he stayed. Now, he didn't have to do any of that stuff, but he did. That's the kind of person that he was. But there were a lot of players I felt like that, from the beginning. Broderick Thomas, I always got along with Broderick, and I maintained contact with him for a long time. I haven't heard from him recently, and it concerns me because he has health considerations that have really been bringing him down. And Steve Taylor, another guy that I connected with, I asked Steve, have you heard from Broderick recently? He hadn't heard from him either. And they were pretty close. So you mentioned Zadiska, Roger Craig, Jarvis Redwine, Mike Rozier, Eric Crouch, all the Heisman winners, Dave Remington. I mean, Grant Wistrom. There's just so many players that I would put on that list, and I think it reflects on the program. At least at the time that I was on the beat, which was a considerable amount of time, is that it was part. Those players. It wasn't by chance. That a lot of that was Osborne era, and he brought in those kinds of players that fit the system and fit the mentality of the program.
Mike, that's a great story. Thanks for sharing that with us. Thanks for jumping on today.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
KFOR has a chance at some free money for Mom. It's $2,000.
I could use some extra cash.
To win, just sign up daily at KFORnow.com.
Hello, neighbor, from Wahoo. Super C convenience stores, now with 11 friendly, locally owned stores. Super C has added Wahoo to the mix. You'll find the same hot snacks, cool drinks, great deals, and neighborhood selections when you stop at North Chestnut Street in Wahoo. Start your day with Township 9 coffee and a donut, or an energy drink and a breakfast burrito. Super C, known for clean restrooms, friendly people, and great service. They're always happy to see you. Now in Wahoo.
It's no secret that this economy is taking its toll on every single person, but I've got some important news that could really help. If you're facing $10,000 or more in credit card debt, medical bills, or other unsecured debt, you need to know that you may not be required to pay it all back. Listen up. There are special programs that can significantly reduce the amount you'll owe if you qualify. This isn't bankruptcy or a high-interest debt consolidation loan. These are programs the credit card companies don't want you to know about. Ones that offer Americans struggling with overwhelming credit card debt savings and real debt relief faster than thought possible. Accredited Debt Relief has a special hotline to learn all about these programs and what savings you might qualify for. They've helped qualified consumers with over $1 billion in debt and have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. So call the Accredited Debt Relief hotline right now for this free information. The number is 800-323-1991. 1-800-323-1991. That's 1-800-323-1991 right now.
I'm in the car next to you on the highway. I sit in front of you on the bus. I'm one out of every 6 Americans, and I'm struggling with hunger. This isn't an uncontrollable epidemic. There's enough food in this country to feed every hungry person. Please, visit feedingamerica.org today and find your local food bank. Every dollar you donate helps provide 7 meals for those around you, quietly struggling with hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Carol Turner. Leach Camper Sales is celebrating 60 years as Lincoln's locally owned RV dealership with a massive RV sales event. This is your last chance to get an RV or trade-in before summer starts. Leach Camper has huge discounts on all units. And come join the fun this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sign up to win prizes, including a $100 gift card to their parts department, a Yeti cooler, and more. I'll be there from 10 till noon. Come celebrate 60 years at Leach Camper Sales, 27th and Cornhusker.
Hey, this is Dan Bongino. As a former NYPD police officer, Secret Service agent, and a TV host, I'll bring Nebraska an honest
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Well, we'll try an effort Shuey here from Wilderness Ridge. I know it's a gorgeous day out. I know the course is slammed. We'll try and run him down, talk a little golf. Schmidt and Elijah Herbel, hope you're doing well. And some input here on the former Husker you'd want to have a beer with, the Husker guys at Husk Guys and the Pipeline Jerky folks. A really fun Twitter topic that we've latched on to. Give them full credit. This is Brennan, former Husker I'd like to have a beer with. Would be Kyle Vanden Bosch, attended football camp in middle school that he was at. And Mike nailed it. Mike's story about Rod Horn having birthday cake with his kid is awesome. That's really good. That's really pretty good. And I can see a big old former Husker taking a sleeve of that sheet cake.
I like Matt's point whenever he chimed in here on the stream as well. Would you take a hit from Sue after a few beers just to say that you did? It's a good question.
Hell no.
You wouldn't?
Why?
Just to say that you did.
I have no interest in you took a shot from Sue. No, thanks.
I don't know.
There's no money involved.
But if it's on video, come on. I think that's good content. Maybe that's just my radio, my media side coming out. I think that's good content. If there's a video of me getting absolutely blindsided by Ndamukong Suh,
I'm sure it's great content until you wake up. then it's where are my teeth and what happened?
What are we talking, like a punch here, or are we talking like
I'm talking about a Mike Tyson hangover type punch?
Oh, see, I wouldn't take a punch from Ndamukong Suh. That's where I draw the line. But if it's like, hey, go drop back in the pocket, I'm gonna lay you out on the blind side.
See, he tried to murder people when he busted through. I mean, you saw how, and he should be. That's his job as a defensive lineman, is to harm quarterbacks and offensive linemen and ball carriers. You wanted that dark side of where they go. Absolutely. You need it to play on the inside.
Well, there was an old show. I think it was on Spike. I can't remember the network, but it's called Pros versus Joes.
Didn't Joe Rogan host it?
I think Joe Rogan hosted it, and then he had all the random guys that go compete against like the former NBA stars, the
Right.
NFL stars. There's a more recent show similar called Shaq versus, where Shaq was the Joe that went out and tried different shows. Anyway, I digress. It kind of showed you the difference between the average guy that plays intramural sports and like a professional athlete, even one that's retired and 50 years old. Like, it kind of shows there's levels to it. I think that's would be the fun thing about Sue, is be like, yeah, I've seen you go take down an NFL offensive lineman en route to the quarterback. What would it look like against just a normal average guy like me? I think the curiosity factor wins out. Probably, yeah.
Carnage.
Yeah,
Absolute
probably carnage.
No,
But maybe not.
I kindly would pass on that. That's all good. But pretty good question in the email box, chris@hailvarsity.com. And we'll get to this here. Kent emails in and asks the question here. We're talking offense. We were talking quarterbacks. And we'll revisit this a little bit longer after we talk to Evan Bland in the 5 o'clock hour. But Ken asks a good question here. He says he knows he's the handpicked guy, but it's okay to question, is Sims really better than Casey Thompson? Is Sims better than Adrian? Is Sims better than Tommy Armstrong? We've seen the records with the mobile quarterbacks. Fairly limited data sample, but hard to project him could take us beyond those guys. And that's totally fair. And I'm not worried right now if I'm a Nebraska fan about going undefeated. I'm not worried if I'm a Nebraska fan at even winning the conference championship in say year 2. And you can talk about lowering the expectations right now are to get 500 or above and get to a bowl game because you've been 6 years without it. I know the baseline is 9 wins and competing into November for the West. The West goes away in a year, and then it's going to be interesting to see how much LA Confidential goes on, whether you're doing USC or UCLA every year or both. How much Ohio State and Michigan do you get? You still got to probably play Iowa, hopefully Iowa. You're getting Wisconsin and Minnesota. You got to be able to adapt to a bunch of different styles and hold up physically and still compete with the athletes and talent that Ohio State and Penn State have. So that's intriguing. But no, I mean, you have Adrian that was a punching bag because he just kept getting the crap kicked out of him. Casey was also a warrior, but ended up missing a couple of games due to injury. Tommy Armstrong really had a long career, but even towards the end of the last 9-win season Nebraska had a blown out hamstring that he torched against Minnesota, and you saw how he was against Iowa. So yeah, you're going to need quality backup to move forward with this type of quarterback, but I think it's a necessity to make your offense, well, dangerous, first of all, and you're better off trying to stress the defense with that element of a quarterback.
And to your point, like, there's a different element of is he a better quarterback whenever you look at different offenses? Because like Eric Crouch won the Heisman. He was the best quarterback that season in college football. Eric Crouch wasn't the first overall pick. The first overall pick that year was David Carr. And David Carr ended up being a respectable NFL quarterback. In terms of quarterbacking ability, from what the NFL wants, David Carr was the better option. But in terms of college quarterback fit in your scheme, Eric Crouch fit the scheme of Nebraska much better than Derek Carr did at Fresno State. My evidence being the fact that David Carr did not win a Heisman. David Carr did not play in a national championship game. So whenever you look at it like that, like, it's hard to say. It kind of depends on how Jeff Sims fits in the offense. And I know we have Brian on the line here before we get to the break.
We'll get to Brian in a second too. And the other part of this is, if you want to talk about getting back to the mountaintop, those teams were so loaded, yes, with Frazier or Behringer or Frost or Gill, but those teams were so loaded with additional help. Okay. You had NFL dudes on both sides of the football, and you had NFL dudes backing up both sides on the football. Brian's with us. Brian, thanks for hanging on. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. Just to your point, Chris, in terms of help, and I'm going to translate that to depth. I think, oddly enough, I know it sounds goofy, it's not just who's a better quarterback. If you have one that can really stress the defense and run, which I like, don't get me wrong, you better have a backup and a very good one, because the metrics would seem to indicate in today's college game, the chances of that type of quarterback lasting through a whole season healthy are slim to none. So you may have a great first-team quarterback, but if that particular quarterback runs a lot, chances are he's going to miss a few games. And that could be a difference between a winning and losing season. And if you're going to go that route, all I'm saying is you better not just have one. You better at least have a couple of very, very good quarterbacks, or a potentially good season could go south real quick.
Big time, Brian. Good phone call. Appreciate you chiming in. 489-1240.
I mean, just look at the Wisconsin and Minnesota game last year. How different those look with your backup in.
Big time. And what were you able to do offensively? You got to have another pitch, honestly. And that's a run game or a go-to receiver. We'll wind down hour one with Hail Varsity.
That's the ease at which you get information. You want it, you get it. Like that. Ask your phone, group chat, Smart home. You're always connected and informed in real time. No waiting. So if you're diabetic and still using finger sticks to read your blood sugar, what are you waiting for? Knowing your blood sugar levels instantly is important for managing diabetes. Call US Med at 800-730-8405 to learn more about continuous glucose monitors, a real-time instant method to track your blood glucose. US Med is an approved provider for Medicare and over 500 private insurers. And the best part? Call 800-730-8405 and we'll give you a free insurance benefits check today. So call 800-730-8405 today. That's 800-730-8405 and manage your diabetes as easy as...
It's spring in Nebraska, so it's time to talk about your garden, lawn, and landscaping. Listen Saturday mornings for In the Garden, where experts from Earl May give you all the tips and tricks to make the best of your outdoor space. Saturdays at 8:30 right here on KFOR. Get the latest updates on local weather conditions, warnings, and watches. Text WARNING to 402-258-2800 to sign up for mobile alerts via text message from KFOR Mobile Weather Alerts powered by Lincoln Electric System. Standard message and data rates may apply.
Shopping for new flooring is different today. Getting your questions answered, making the right selection, getting the best value, and installed quickly and professionally. Visit ostreetcarpet.com or shop our store. We'll answer all your questions and help you make the right choice. You'll be enjoying your new floor at Just Days for less than you'd pay elsewhere. Carpet, vinyl, wood, laminate, tile, and area rugs. We've got it all. O Street Carpet. 1732 O Street. Family owned and operated. Always the best value.
From the beginning, they were applauded. The music that sold over 100 million records. Chicago, Friday, May 12th, Pinewood Bowl Theater in Lincoln's Pioneers Park. The music of Chicago. Friday, May 12th, Pinewood Bowl Theater in Lincoln's Pioneers Park. On sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Chicago.
This is KFOR's Kathy Blythe inviting you to join Legacy's John Kopetsky and me Saturday mornings for the Aging Adventure, brought to you by Legacy Retirement Communities. Lifestyle and health topics plus fascinating people. The Aging Adventure, 8 a.m. Saturdays on KFOR.
Nebraskans love the great outdoors.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Winding down Hour 1, Hail Varsity, presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Deuce chiming in, 489-1240. Deuce, thanks for the call. Go ahead.
Smitty, what's up?
Hey, my man. It's good to hear from you.
Good to hear from you. Hey, I don't disagree in theory with what the last gentleman said about better have a good backup quarterback, but the reality is that with the transfer portal, having a luxury of having two good quarterbacks or two really good quarterbacks is slim and none. Mm-hmm. And look around and see not just quarterbacks, but every position, what's happening to backups. I think I laugh when I think about the time when your dad and I got to enjoy things like Brooke Behringer being your backup quarterback. What do you think the chances of that happening today?
It's
zero.
It's zero because
absolutely zero. So you're going to have to figure out an offense that protects that quarterback to the maximum that you can, and just hope like heck that you don't have an injury.
Well, you got to pray for no injury, and also have kind of a main go-to where it's not super quarterback reliant. I mean, you want him to be a playmaker, a difference maker, but don't ride him like you rode Adrian.
Let's be honest though, and talk about the last couple of years. It hasn't necessarily been a quarterback-centric offense, and still the quarterbacks got hurt. If your offensive line can't protect you, you still are in a world of trouble.
You're done. No, in the days of the backup, you better find a guy that'll stick and develop him. That's what your hope is.
If you hope.
Just take care, brother. We'll get one soon. All right.
All right.
All right. There is. Let's sneak in one more call here. We'll get to see your emails as well, and really good email question from Kent. Do we know that Sims is better than some of these other quarterback options? I think you could look at the spring game and say, yeah, Sims is the dude, but yeah, you're definitely risking not having Casey in the fold anymore. Who's with us?
We go to Chris.
Chris, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, great show. This is a little off talk, but I want to get this in. I did say this before last night's game, but I think the Lakers are going to sweep the Warriors or win in 5 games. They might lose one. They're clearly the best team left. They have dominated the last 6 weeks. And I can't stand the Lakers. I despise LeBron, but they're winning a championship.
Hey, maybe you just haven't been staying up late, but have you been watching the Nuggets? I think they could be the best team in the West.
No. Did you watch that game the other night? That was awful on both sides.
They held They held Kevin Durant and Devin Booker to 87 points. It wasn't always beautiful offense, but their defense was legit.
Yeah, they should have won by 20. It was horrible. And I'm not a big Durant guy, but and we've had backup quarterbacks beat us a bunch of times in the last few years. So you can have decent backup quarterbacks. Heck, the Minnesota quarterback came in last year and looked like Aaron Rodgers
in
the second half.
That's so funny. The one team that's got that every backup quarterback has looked forward to facing.
yeah. Backup quarterbacks are, they know they're going to get a shot against Nebraska a lot of times, and they're going to come in and beat us.
Well,
that's funny, Chris. Thanks for the phone call.
All right, guys. Great show. Thanks.
I think the biggest difference with those teams in Nebraska is they've had a backup quarterback that fits what their offense does. Because you think back, it was Riker Fife behind Tommy Armstrong, didn't quite fit the offense, or Ron Kellogg behind Tommy Armstrong, didn't quite fit the same offense. Behind
you got a line of quarterbacks now that are able to run. They're theoretically, they're in the same mold as Sims. Yeah. But no, Sims will have a chance. I think he could be a good one. Evan Bland, we'll dive into some portal thoughts with him next.
Hi, this is Jeff Mall with Visit Lincoln. Spring can only mean the return of great sports traditions like the Lincoln Marathon and Half Marathon, the weekend of May 6th, with the marathon being run on a citywide course that starts and finishes on the campus of the University of Nebraska. Thousands of runners will again enjoy Lincoln's challenging yet scenic course, which is lined with residents of our community that many remark as being some of the best resident cheerleaders they see each year. Festivities again will surround this event as visitors continue their return to pre-pandemic travel levels. Visit Lincoln and the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce have long been supporters of the marathon, and our staff will once again be at the 3-mile aid station, and we enjoy thanking runners for being in Lincoln, handing them refreshments and cheering them on as they continue their long journey. Make it a point to cheer on and welcome runners as they touch your part of our community. I'm proud of tourism in our community, and it's one more thing I enjoy about life in Lincoln. I'm Jeff Mall.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
This is your station for local news, talk, sports, and weather. FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR, Lincoln.
From ABC News, I'm Daria Albinger. A search is underway for the suspect in a deadly mass shooting today in Atlanta. Chief Darren Shirebaum.
We are looking for Dion Patterson, age 24 years of age.
ABC's Steve Osunsami outside the building where his own doctor has an office.
The people who work there are, I can speak personally, are wonderful, wonderful caregiving people. I'm a 2-time cancer survivor, and these are the people who helped me through much of my second treatment.
Police say Patterson, who allegedly stole a car and fled the scene, should be considered extremely dangerous. Another arrest in a deadly mass shooting last week in Texas.
Along with Francisco Oropeza, his partner was found in the same home, and now she's charged with helping him hide out and evade police. District Attorney Todd Dillon.
She was providing him with material aid and encouragement, food, clothes, and had arranged transport to this house.
That home belongs to a relative. Another man was also arrested there for allegedly helping Oropeza hide. Oropeza was found in a closet hiding under laundry. Alex Stone, ABC News.
The Fed's done it again, raising interest rates by a quarter point to the highest level in 16 years. But Chair Jerome Powell signaled the central bank may be ready to pause after 10 consecutive increases.
Inflation has moderated somewhat since the middle of last year. Nonetheless, inflation pressures continue to run high, and the process of getting inflation back down to 2% has a long way to go.
Stocks fell on the news, Dow plunging more than 200 points today. Weight loss company Jenny Craig is closing down this Friday, just days after it announced it would wind down its brick and mortar operations and transition to an e-commerce business. More than 11,000 police will guard the coronation of King Charles this weekend in what is expected to be the biggest security operation in British history. You're listening to ABC News.
Imagine getting ahead of your irritable bowel syndrome with constipation or IBS-C by treating it with Linzess. Then you could start proactively managing your constipation with belly pain and get ahead of your symptoms. Talk to your doctor about Linzess, linaclotide. Linzess is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually.
Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling.
Imagine, what could relief from IBS-C mean for you? Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
Good afternoon. I'm Will Wilson, KFOR News. It's 79 degrees in Lincoln. A string of thefts between Saturday night and Sunday morning between Lancaster and Seward counties has led to the arrest of 2 people believed to be involved. Lancaster County Chief Deputy Sheriff Ben Houchin says 3 thefts were reported in Malcolm and several more in Milford. A neighbor near one of the thefts in Malcolm happened to have video that shows a red sedan with in-transits leaving the area. But a pair of AirPods stolen in Milford helped a deputy tracking down the suspects to a home near 24th and E in Lincoln.
Goes there. He already saw the picture of the sedan from a burglary or a theft in Malcolm. Spots the vehicle, starts to call undercover cars.
Deputies were sent to the home and a search warrant was served. AirPods were found along with a stolen gun, meth, and several other items. Deputies then arrested 32-year-old Gary Winchell on suspicion of possession of meth. Houchin said he will be facing additional charges. Later on, deputies served a search warrant at the apartment of Winchell's girlfriend, 36-year-old Nicole Jensen. Deputies found a stolen revolver underneath her bed and arrested her on suspicion of possessing a stolen firearm. The driver of a semi-truck suffered a medical episode Tuesday afternoon that caused a 7-vehicle chain reaction crash along West O Street near Sun Valley Boulevard.
A semi without trailer, 2 SUVs, 2 pickup trucks, 1 sedan, and 1 school bus with no students on board.
Lincoln Police Sergeant Chris Fulmer says the truck driver was taken to the hospital and another driver was treated for non-life-threatening injuries at a Lincoln hospital. The investigation into the crash continues. In sports, Nebraska and Creighton will resume last month's suspended baseball game on Tuesday, May 9th at 5 p.m. at Charles Schwab Field in Omaha. The game, which was suspended due to lightning, will resume tied at 4 in the bottom of the 7th inning with Nebraska batting and no outs. Gabe Swanson will be at the plate with the bases loaded and at 0-0 count. Following the completion of the suspended game, the Huskers and Blue Jays will meet in the series finale scheduled for 7:03 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. This afternoon, sunny with a high of 80. I'm Will Wilson, KFOR News.
Beef up your backyard with KFOR. Listen to Lincoln's Morning Show with Chris, Carol, and Jeff for a chance to add some sizzle to your summer. Summer! Up for grabs, a Weber Q2200 gas grill and portable cart from Capitol Patio and Flame Shop. Plus, a gift card for some mouth-watering meat from Russ's Market. We'll have 3 qualifiers each morning. Plus, you can enter online at KFORnow.com. Beef up your backyard and win with KFOR.
When you choose new flooring, you don't want to wait for weeks or months to enjoy it. You want it installed right away. Hi, Steve Carper from O Street Carpet. We hear stories every day about long waits and installation charges way higher than necessary. When you choose O Street Carpet, we'll measure free, install right away, and at a much better price. Stop in, shop now.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back into it. It's Hour 2 at Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. We say hi to Evan Bland, and he is responsible for the baseball weather out there. Find Evan on Twitter at Evan Bland, OWH. Evan, what's the good word? How's your week?
Yeah, pretty good. You know, there was a movie called Evan Almighty, and he might have been in control of the weather, but it was not me. I wish it was.
Yay or nay on because Evan Almighty followed Bruce Almighty, correct? That was Steve Carell?
That's right.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. I know the critics didn't love it, but good poll there with Evan Almighty.
I personally liked that movie, but it also
that was about the Ark.
It
right?
also came out when I was 8 years old, so I don't think I had a very refined taste in movies back then, but I liked it.
Yeah, I there are certain animals you probably leave off the Ark, but it wasn't up to Evan.
That's true. Yeah, I liked Bruce Almighty better. Strangely enough, I thought Evan Almighty was okay. But Steve Carell's great. So if he's going to play an Evan, I'll lean into that.
And I think along with that, me being 8 years old, the story of love probably didn't resound with me as much as like this crazy dude building an ark. So.
Sure. Yeah. He just went to town, and all of a sudden he was able to seek shelter. So I don't know where to go from the Evan Almighty stuff. So we'll just ask you to pair up two position groups.
Ooh.
You think Nebraska could maybe revisit here before fall camp starts? What couple of spots would you go make additions to if you're Nebraska?
Okay, so the roster is the Ark, and we're adding 2x2 onto the Ark in addition.
Well, we're adding one offensive and one defensive. We'll go there.
Okay, all right. Offensively, I think it's probably got to be a receiver if you're looking around. I mean, that's where the talent is in the portal right now. You're talking right around 1,000 FBS scholarship players are still in the portal, and you look at some of the top players and talents that are out there. To me, I mean, that's the theme is receiver on the offensive side, and just the accomplishments that some of these guys had at different levels. You think about Nebraska's hit rate at that position from the portal over the last few years with Samori Toure and Trey Palmer onto the NFL. So I think that's probably where you have to start. You think about that room too, where you have a couple of guys who left the team and came back, a couple older transfers in Marcus Washington and Josh Fleeks, and then a number of freshmen, I think 6 true freshmen who are going to be on campus in the fold this fall. So along with Billy Kemp, of course, who's probably their number one right now. So I think that's probably the position that you look at, or at least you kick the tires on to see what could be out there. Defensively, I don't know that there's one glaring area that they need. Of course, if you find some sort of an impact edge rusher or defensive lineman, you're going to look into that. But then again, so are probably 60 or 70 other teams around the country. So I think it's a harder pull on the defensive side. In terms of supply and demand, probably defensive back would be where you could pull the easiest from the portal, but that's also where Nebraska probably has the most depth and surplus on its own roster. So I think receiver is the kind of the one that stands out pretty clearly. And then on that other side, maybe you find somebody as sort of an edge rusher linebacker type who can play a lot of different spots. Maybe be that Jack in that 3-3-5 who can play the run, play the pass. I don't think you can have enough of those guys, and there could probably be a little bit more depth there on that side for Nebraska too.
Evan, how do you think this Husker coaching staff feels about the quarterback position? Do you think they want a more experienced backup to put behind Jeff Sims, assuming he is the starter? Do you think they're happy with the guys they have backing him up right now?
Well, first of all, I don't think they wanted Casey Thompson necessarily to leave. And the fact that he did, I think this shows that it's really a luxury in this era of college athletics and college football to have two guys who are experienced starters elsewhere. And as Casey Thompson is seeing from his trip to Auburn this week and a lot of other suitors, like the market is hot for a guy like that. So it's certainly something Nebraska, I think, wishes it could have hung on to Casey Thompson and had that depth. But I think probably one of the biggest risers this spring was Heinrich Harburg. You think back to February and the discussion around him was, well, is he maybe considering a move to tight end, or could they use his athleticism elsewhere? And now the dust has sort of settled, and he's sort of, I think at worst, a number 2, right, with Chubba Purdy. So he's made some big strides. The staff likes what he brings in terms of toughness, his speed. I think their emphasis on the running the quarterback more plays into Harburg's hands a little bit. But the complication that brings with it, of course, is the exposure to injury. We saw that for years with Adrian Martinez, where I think you probably got to go back to 2016, the last time Nebraska's had a quarterback make it through the year unscathed without having to start a backup at some point. So I don't know that you ever feel perfect about your quarterback situation. They went from having too many to probably wishing they had one more. You almost kind of wish, Logan Smothers maybe would have stayed or could revisit coming back, just because of his skill set as a sprinter and somebody with starting experience who's been around the block too. So, you probably never stand pat. You're always looking around, looking to assess. But my sense right now would probably be that they would stand pat with the room that they have. Maybe you start revisiting the 2024 cycle for a high school recruit. If that's not Dylan Raiola, then you look a different direction and try to fill it that way. And then again, next offseason, if you really feel like you need to add through the portal again, there are always going to be options there too. So it's hard to say what opportunities may be there for quarterback moving forward, but my hunch would be they'd probably stand pat with what they have for this season.
Evan, you hit on it briefly there at the end, but I want to get your take on just what Nebraska thinks they have in Heinrich Harburg, because the standard in college football for years has been you have your starting quarterback, and then the backup is your starter in waiting, the guy that's going to be your starter here in a year or two. And the modern era of college football with the transfer portal has kind of changed things around. But do you feel that Nebraska thinks they have a potential future starter in Heinrich Harburg, or would this just be a stopgap for a year as they try to build up their recruiting and maybe go get a transfer portal guy next offseason?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say what the answer to that is. I don't want to sell him short and say that he couldn't be the starter, but I also don't know, based on what we saw and heard this spring, that he is necessarily destined for that role either. Like he's one of those guys who, if you talk to him, he's really smart, graduated early out of high school, well-spoken, thoughtful, loves the position. And I think there's a toughness about him too. I mean, he was one of the first to talk with reporters in, I think it was early March, about his role. And he's like, yeah, if the way that gets me on the field is to play tight end or even a little bit of fullback or H-back or whatever, like I'll do that and get out there. And so I think that all speaks to the character that you want to have in a guy leading the way. And then he's an explosive athlete too. I mean, we heard from coaches many times who said that he was one of the fastest guys on the team. I know coming out of high school at Kearney Catholic, he had a lot of dunk highlights on the basketball court. Like he's got ups and hops. So I think he has all the different tools and intangibles that you could ask for. He's got height from a quarterback as well. It's just, it's hard to say how that goes until the lights come on. We haven't seen him, in action in a college game outside of what he's done in the spring. So I think the possibility is there, but if you're Nebraska and just the way that college athletics is now, you always got to have a backup option. So I think even if they were to go out and add somebody through the portal, or pursue somebody in this cycle out of the high school ranks, like I think you have to do that. And it doesn't, I don't think, speak one way or another to how they feel about what Harburg could be down the road.
Evan Bland with us, few minutes at Hail Varsity Radio, at Evan Bland, OWH on Twitter. Last thought on the quarterback situation. just based on what the coaches have said and the skill sets that remain in that room, you got to have the ability to use your legs, not just to get out of trouble, but it can be a focal point on offense, the running element of the quarterback game. And that's where Harburg and Pretty have shown their best ability. The passing game is the question mark compared to Sims or even compared to Thompson. Do you think Nebraska's offense would be able to do enough? And I'm talking when you get into those gory situations in October or November, say you're down your starter that's a better thrower. Could the offense do enough to get it done if they're limited with, all right, the guy's a better runner than he is thrower? Would they be able to adapt?
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen that a lot over the years where Nebraska's had to start a backup and it's limited what the offense has been able to do, whether that's just knowledge of the playbook or whether that's physical ability like you're talking about. And, I think what you'd love to see if you're Nebraska coaches or a fan is you'd love to see the ability to move the football on the ground without having to use the quarterback, right? You would love to see that line assert itself, and you'd love to see some sort of a feature back emerge from that running back room, whether that's Anthony Grant or, whoever else. Gabe Irvin, whoever else might come out of that room. But you want to be able to lean on that and less on your quarterback. And as we've seen at Nebraska, there were times last year and in previous years too, where that was really all the offense had was, okay, Adrian, make a play. Okay, Casey Thompson, make a play, throw it deep, figure it out. And it's not really a sustainable approach over the course of a season. You can maybe get away with it for a game here or there. You can maybe get away with it early in the season when everybody's fresh and 100%. But you're right. You get into late October and early November and you're going through the meat grinder of the Big Ten West and the defenses that you're going to face. You got to have other ways to do it than just by relying on your quarterback's legs. And I think it still remains to be seen whether Nebraska can do that, whether they have enough playmakers at receiver, whether they have the improvement that they need along the line, whether they have that guy at running back who can, be the hot hand and take it and run with it. That's what you're working toward. And I think that will, whether they can do that without having to rely on the quarterback, I think will be one, litmus test, one area that you can sort of point to and see just how far Nebraska is able to progress this season.
With the departures, Evan, with Casey, with AJ, with Wynn, does that skew potential outlook, or are we all just kind of throwing things against the wall for year one with this roster in Nebraska?
Well, I mean, if Sims gets hurt, yeah, I think that's a major effect because if you're having to go to Heinrich Harburg for multiple games, not to say that he couldn't be that guy, but we just don't know. We haven't seen him out there. We don't know what that would necessarily look like. Whereas if you had that safety blanket in Casey Thompson, that's a great luxury to have. And Nebraska's not going to have that moving forward. Allen, I think, might be the most talented running back in that room or had the highest upside, at least in that room. And he's not there, but they still have a lot of depth. And that's a position group that Matt Rule and the coaches talked glowingly about, just in terms of the talent that they have there. So I don't know that you necessarily feel like that is a huge hit on your offense, at least in 2023. And so, Wynn is a little bit interesting. I felt like he was clearly going to be a rotational player along that defensive line for them this year. He spoke with us in the media last month about his journey, and I never got the sense at all that he would look elsewhere for his last year. It felt like he had that opportunity here. So, yeah, I think that's probably a spot where when you add that to the other attrition that the defensive lines had, you kind of wonder where that's going to go. We saw Cam Lenhart and Prince William and Yellen perform well, but they're true freshmen. So how do they hold up physically into November in the Big Ten? So I think that's probably a spot where you're going to miss them. And again, quarterback, absolutely, if they have to dip anywhere beyond Jeff Sims.
A few more minutes with Evan Bland. We'll dive into some Husker baseball with Evan. Good stuff on Nebraska football. Reminder to get buckled up. Use your seatbelt. It saves lives, prevents injuries only if properly worn. buckle up. A message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. A lot of talk about offense and contingency if things do what happens in the Big Ten, and that's your starter or a starter gets hurt. Matt nails it. Nebraska has not been using a running quarterback. Nebraska's had a quarterback running for his life. Big difference. Very fair take there, Matt. And no, you just got to be able to not overuse. That's just it. And it's easy to go and say, yep, Adrian, run it. Yep, Tommy Armstrong, run it. Yep, Sims, bail us out, go make a play. Well, you want to be able to have a difference maker and a playmaker at quarterback. You can't be a one-hit wonder with that being your offense because you're not great. Here's the reality. It's been a long time since you've had a head coach here. When it gets to, oh God, the backup's in. Bo and Beck and Garrison and Barney and those guys, they won a lot of ball games with backup quarterbacks.
They'd have a plan.
Yes, they had a plan, and the backup was ready. And I don't think Whip's use of Pretty against Minnesota or against the Illini or even Michigan was awful, but you could just tell there wasn't confidence.
And let's also not act like having a running quarterback is the ultimate nail in the coffin. You're going to miss games next season. Part of it comes down to chance because there's running quarterbacks that I can remember that had no injury issues. That's obviously outside
Jalen
Nebraska.
Hurts didn't get hurt.
Jalen Hurts didn't get hurt. Denard Robinson, I don't really remember him getting hurt much at Michigan.
No,
I think
he just was a liability throwing the football.
He had like one stretch his junior year, I think, where he missed 2 games.
He missed the first half against Nebraska.
I mean, it's not like that's the ultimate. Lamar Jackson with Louisville, he didn't get hurt.
No,
just because you're running quarterback doesn't mean you're going to get hurt.
You just need another option on offense.
Yes.
Well, Varsity is a must-have for true Husker fans. Get a monthly magazine that'll make checking the mail fun again. Daily analysis, the breaking news, including the inside scoop on recruiting on HailVarsity.com. And every June, that's right, every June, you'll get the Nebraska Football Yearbook, a season preview completely dedicated to Nebraska football. That's as comprehensive as national previews. Remember, get to HailVarsity.com.
Hail Varsity Club in La Vista is the perfect place to go for lunch every day. Dine in at the club and get our express lunch special for just $10. It's the all-beef Hail Varsity burger, fries, and a fountain drink delivered to your table in under 15 minutes. Hail Varsity Club in La Vista for lunch every day. And the perfect spot to watch all the big games. Reserve your table today and check out the events we've got coming up at HailVarsityClub.com. In La Vista, right next to Cabela's. Hail Varsity Club.
You can hear all the wind and the house moving.
Trailer homes turned upside down.
Tremendous damage.
We were one of the lucky ones that got out.
Severe storms have already taken their toll on communities around the country this year.
People are dying.
Damage is unbelievable.
It's awful.
And the storm season here is just getting started.
Tragic loss of life.
Now, more than ever, you need to know when severe weather is a possibility. Don't play games. Get the latest forecast here. KFOR.
There's never any FOMO with the iHeartRadio app. You won't ever have to miss out on your favorite shows and contests with this radio station again. Radio 24/7, 365. We're here when you want us. Stay connected and listen anywhere when you download the free iHeartRadio app.
Spring is here and it's time to get those seeds in the ground. There's no time for delays if your equipment needs a new part. That's why Acres stocks thousands of premium John Deere parts for all your ag machines, planters, sprayers, and tractors. Acres has what you need now. And with a team of John Deere certified technicians, Acres will diagnose and repair your equipment quickly. Visit acres.com to find your closest location. Our team of parts and service professionals are dedicated to keeping you operating at full capacity. Acres, solutions for every field.
Access to healthcare is a fundamental human need. A new bill threatens that access in Nebraska, and not just for the group it targets. LB 574 would take complex medical decisions away from doctors, patients, and their families. We doctors are already hearing from physicians in training that they will not stay in Nebraska because of this, worsening our existing shortage here in the heartland. Please help us by contacting your senator. LB 574 is bad medicine for Nebraska.
Advocacy by League of Women Voters Nebraska. Paid for by Nebraska Doctors for Patient Freedom.
Nebraskans love the great outdoors.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Evan Bland is with us here from the Omaha World Herald as it's Hail Varsity Radio. And Evan, let's switch gears here, talk some Husker baseball as the Huskers take on North Dakota State here. A little under an hour, 6:05 first pitch between North Dakota State and Nebraska. They followed up with a weekend series against Maryland Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And Evan, it's the home stretch for Husker baseball. And I don't want to talk too much about postseason chances, but it feels like that has become fleeting in terms of regular season chances. They may need to win the Big Ten tournament. What do you think that this finish to the season is going to mean for the Huskers?
Well, their RPI is around 120, and you really need to, if you want to have a chance to be in that at-large conversation, you need to be top 40, top 35 historically. And so I think you can kind of count Nebraska out of that discussion. Like you'd like to be in a spot ideally where this weekend would boost your resume chances in that regard. I just don't know that it's going to matter that much, given how much ground Nebraska would have to make up. So it becomes about the conference race, and they're in a really interesting spot in the standings where they're in a three-way tie for third. They're 2 games behind Maryland. Maryland leads the league, and they're also 2.5 games from being out of the top 8 altogether. So this is a weekend where you don't want to repeat what you did in Iowa City a couple weeks ago and get swept. The Terps are probably the most talented team in the conference. They're certainly among the hottest right now, especially what they've been doing offensively. So I think the baseline for Nebraska should be win a game. And if you can win the series and continue your string this year of winning Big Ten series, all the better. But to me, it's about making that Big Ten tournament. And historically, since the Big Ten's been in a 13-team baseball league, you got to win 13 games, and you're pretty safely into that Big Ten tournament, which means Nebraska needs to go, I think, 4 and 5 the rest of the way. So there's a little bit of latitude to lose the series and still be in a good spot. And I think Nebraska's got the talent, certainly the star power at the top, when you talk about Bryce Matthews and Max Anderson and Emmett Olson, to make a run in Omaha. If they can get there, they'll have the crowd support. I think they have the same amount of ability as any of those top contending teams. But this, I think, is an important weekend. Again, just don't let the wheels fall off. Stack a win, maybe 2, and start making it more secure that you're going to be into Omaha for that league tournament.
Evan, when you look at that 3-way tie, you're feeling right now Nebraska's got to handle their business, but what's your outlook on Sparty or even Indiana, Michigan? I know Iowa's at 8-6. Anybody right now teetering or fading, or is it kind of just day by day for that log jam? Is there somebody you think could emerge, or could it be that Nebraska squad that to your point has the dudes to win about any ball game?
Well, for Nebraska, I think this is the key weekend. If you are able to win that series at Maryland, the last 2 opponents are manageable. I mean, Penn State and Lincoln, you got to feel good about winning that series. That's a team on the outside of the top 8 looking in. And then you close at Purdue. They have not been overly impressive. They're sort of a fringe Big Ten tournament team as well. So if you win this weekend, it does bring more possibilities into play. If you lose the series, then I think it just becomes about making the field. Like to me, it doesn't matter if Nebraska is the 7th seed or the 4th seed or whatever. Like I think they have the talent on that roster to make a run and to do something. You look at the rest of the Big Ten. I do think Maryland was the preseason favorite. I think they had a little lull early in the season. They scheduled strong in the non-conference and took some lumps, but they're rounding into form. I'm going to look at who's playing Northwestern down the stretch, because Northwestern is the worst team in the league. And I think Michigan and Iowa and teams like that right around Nebraska still have to play them. So I think that's a factor. The team that surprises me, I think, that's still toward the top is Michigan State. I mean, they're a team that really hasn't been relevant in a number of years and didn't really look on paper like they would be this year. So I'll be curious to see if they can hold on. I think they're second right now in the standings. I'll be curious to see if that maintains for them over the course of the rest of the year. And then kind of for that 7-8 spot, it's a whole jumble of teams, whether that's Illinois or Penn State or Rutgers, teams like that. So Big Ten baseball is kind of weird. The weather's actually cooperated. They've gotten most of the games in this spring, but I think we're probably in for a few more surprises here in the last few weeks too.
Evan Bland with us from the World Herald. Check him out for all things Huskers and, of course, Husker Baseball at Evan Bland, OWH on Twitter. Evan, enjoy your week, and thanks for a few minutes today.
Yeah, guys, thanks.
Good stuff from Evan. Got a little bit of room here. The rest of this segment, 489-1240. 489-1240, we've dialed in a lot on the offense, the quarterback discussion point. Good discussions there and emails and phone calls. Also, the drink draft took place early with our friends at Husk Guys asking what former Husker would you want to have a beer with? And I've kind of zoomed out, and I think Coach Nee was awesome. One guy I've not had a beer with I'd like to, Switzer. Maybe that can happen sometime. Don't know.
Or maybe a glass of wine.
Switzer is a red wine guy. But that was funny. And it was really cool to hear Mike Babcock's story about it wasn't a drink, but it was a former Husker that was able to come over and spend time with Mike's boy when he was younger for a birthday party, which was really, really cool.
And
so
I think at some point this offseason, probably not today, we should flip it around. Who is the former Husker you'd least like to have a beer with? I think that could be a fun discussion topic as well.
Now, the short list is great, though. I mean, short list is fantastic. Dr. Rob's there. Makovic is awesome. Wistrom. Grant would always have golf tournaments, and he was just great to folks who came out to his tournament, really like Grant Wistrom. Vers is awesome. I mean, there's a whole list of former Huskers that are either around or come back that are cool. And I'd see Sue and Carl in a bar that was kind of a bar, and I don't want to give free shout outs on Wednesday, but it was a bar you had to travel through an alley to get to next to a theater, if we can all do math together. And they just kind of had their little corner area, and I think it was after a spring game. It was good. But quite frankly, the Searles Jake Cotton combo on O Street was still number one.
Legendary. It's the stuff of a legend.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's kind of like that Rob Light story we heard on O Street. Remember that story we heard? Whenever Rob Light was a bouncer at...
Oh, yeah. Rob or Jason?
Oh, sorry, Jason.
Right, the Tampa.
Yeah, Tampa GM. Yeah.
Right, and did Charlie tell us that story?
I think it was Charlie was talking about. He was the bouncer at a downtown Lincoln establishment.
Yes.
Again, no free shout-outs on a Wednesday. And this guy pulls a knife on him.
Right, and he crushes the guy in the alley, and then he drives home at 3 a.m. in his convertible Jeep.
Covered, not in his blood, but the other guy's blood.
Yeah.
Was the amendment of the story. Who knows how true that part of the story is, but I think that's pretty funny.
I think that's great. We'll try and run Shuey down next week. We missed him. Quarterback situation for Nebraska. Do you believe Nebraska's got to go get a 2024 quarterback to round out the class? I know that earlier this week you had Satterfield and Coach Donnie stop by Pinnacle to see Dylan. Nebraska is not going to give up that chase, despite what things sound like with Georgia. There's been no timeline right now. And I know you and Connor talked about the Raiola story in MSN yesterday. But, where do you go if you're Nebraska? Here's what you can't do. And I don't think this staff will. You don't want to reach, and you don't want to settle. That said, you still want to take a quarterback that you like. A name that's emerged is Kamari McClellan. And he's a quarterback for 2024 out of Alabama. He was recruited by Satterfield when he was at South Carolina. I think there's an unofficial lined up first part of June for him. Is he a guy that they really like? I know he's a guy that Satterfield really liked. A.J. Barthel has been combing California, some follow-up visits as he's been on the road with Brandon Baker, Nathaniel Frazier, and then Aiden Breland. And those are some monster top targets for Nebraska out on the West Coast, with Baker and Breland being very obvious best at or top 3 at their position for 2024. And then Frazier's an incredible back. So Nebraska's keeping busy, and quarterback is key. The deal is this, and I think you hit on it 100%, Elijah, where moving forward, ideally, you want 3 scholarship quarterbacks in that quarterback room. You've got your starter, you've got your capable backup that's got time to win a job, and then you've got the next.
Yeah, the freshman or redshirt freshman development piece down on the third string.
You've got your guy that is your starter. You've got your guy that's pretty far along in his development process, and you got your rookie.
Mm-hmm.
And just keep that cycle churning. Easier said than done. And
easier said than done, because you look at Nebraska's current quarterback situation. I kind of alluded to it with Evan. Does Nebraska think they have a future starter in Heinrich Haarberg? That's the question right now. And that's why I think the 2024 quarterback is paramount, because it's not out of the realm of possibility that Jeff Sims goes and has a good year. This coaching staff is so high on his raw ability.
Is he here for 2 years?
Is he here for his full 2 years of eligibility? Because you think about it, a guy like that's where the NFL is moving.
Best case scenario, the guy kills it and is a top 3 round pick. And that's it's a tough problem, but a nice advertisement to have one of your programs.
It's a nice advertisement to have, but then that leads you to believe probably Nebraska's got to go back to the portal again next offseason, which then puts you again behind the 8 ball in terms of going and bringing in a quarterback that's going to be ready soon. And I think that class of 2024 quarterback is paramount. The first guy this coaching staff truly was able to recruit and handpick. I think that 2024 quarterback is, and I don't want to go as far as to say program defining, because that'd be a Dylan Raiola type get, but it is going to define potentially 3 seasons of your play, 2 to 3 seasons of your play. Once you get some development, once you get him ready to go, that's your quarterback that you're going to rely on for a while.
You have an out though, and it's a reality. You don't have to live and die anymore with missing on a high school quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
You can go portal and fix it that way.
But I don't think that's what this coaching staff wants to do.
I don't think they want to either, but I'll say this is the first time since his recruitment, you're going to get a quarterback and an offensive coordinator coach really put the work in with a guy like Haarberg, because he was just kind of cast aside, in my humble opinion, by Whipple, by Mickey, and he's going to get the opportunity. Same with Purdy. Purdy was a picked guy by Whip, and they'll both get plenty of work, which is nice. Jock Doc's on the way. What's the story on Embiid as he tries to give it a go tonight? Boulder is the place to be this college football season. And Gary Michaels Clothier's Lincoln and Big Red of the Rockies will be there Friday before Nebraska, Colorado, the Battle in Boulder Party. You're invited, and get your reservations today. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity. Be there for the Battle in Boulder in Estes Park, Friday, September 8th at the Ridgeline Hotel in Estes. Enjoy a prime rib salmon buffet, silent live auction, and special guest touchdown Tommy Frazier will be there, along with other Husker greats for an autograph signing. Tickets are on sale now. Adults $100, 12 and under $40. Call Gary Michaels today at 800-556-7848 or GaryMichaels.com. Estes Park is 36 miles from Boulder, and transportation to and from the game is available. Call now before it's sold out. The Battle in Boulder in Estes Park, Friday, September 8th, with Gary Michaels Clothiers and Big Red of the Rockies. Log on today for the Battle in Boulder. GaryMichaels.com or call 800-556-7848.
Without the ones like you who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Leroy, 71's backed up. What's your 20? Over.
Olivia needs more drivers for her trucking company to go the extra mile.
3 more stops to make.
She wants to hitch a team to drive business forward.
Lots of double nickels on the 169. You know what I'm over? This driver shortage.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. Time for a Jock Doc Wednesday. Nebraska Orthopedic Center. Dr. Brandon Seifert's with us. Dr. Brandon, you got your Sixers jersey on?
Have to pull out the old one from back in the Barkley days.
That's the way to do it. You're right. Barkley or Moses, or give me a little Dr. J, maybe some Mo Cheeks. But yeah, Philly's got a new MVP in town, just minted Joel Embiid.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty amazing. You think about that poor guy, and here we are talking about another injury for him. He's been another one of our frequent flyers on the show, but, great for him this year to have such a great year and really kind of turn the corner from some of those injuries he had previously.
I mean, I can remember doing foot and knee, and was he going to have microfracture surgery early in his career, and he missed time at KU. I mean, he's been through the ringer, and he's as good and dominant as there is. He is going to give it a go tonight. That's the word to ESPN anyway. And let's touch on this sprained right knee, this LCL ligament, and just how temperamental that part of his body is going to be tonight.
Yeah, kind of more of a rare type injury. We tend to see more, we've talked a lot about on the show, more medial collateral or MCL. That'd be the opposite ligament of this on the inside. So now we're talking on the outside of the knee, kind of giving a little anatomy review. And we've talked extensively about the two major kind of ligaments in the middle of the knee, the cruciate ligaments, ACL, PCL. Now we've moved to the outside of the knee. This would be the LCL or lateral collateral ligament. And essentially what that does is that this force of the knee moving to the outside. We call that a varus directed force. So in his scenario, that's basically what he tweaked. It sounds like they kind of called it a low-grade sprain, at least initially. And then there were some reports that maybe things were a little bit more, a little higher elevated sprain perhaps, maybe some other trauma perhaps within the knee. And in fact, it sounds like he underwent a PRP injection. And we've talked about that before, platelet-rich plasma. Basically, when they take your blood out, spit it down, grab that top layer of fluid that has a lot of great growth factors, platelet-derived growth factor being one of those. He actually had one of those injections yesterday, as it said.
Dr. Brandon Seifert's with us here. It's a Jock Doc Wednesday on Hail Varsity Radio. And Dr. Brandon, it comes as a bit of a surprise that Joel Embiid is going to give it a go tonight, as the Sixers, they went on the road and won game one. You already stole your one game away from home. And I think the prevailing thought among a lot of media members was, well, why would you risk Joel Embiid right now? You've already won the one game away from home. You can give this one up and then get him back on the floor on Friday night for your home game against the Boston Celtics. So I want to get your thoughts. Would 2 days more rest really be that impactful for Joel Embiid here? Or does this just come down to pain management?
Yeah, that's a great question, Elijah. You start looking at those scenarios in this situation. Obviously, to your point, taking another day of rest and get another one beyond that, if you don't play tonight, I think is a wise decision on this scenario. To get him ready for the home stand. Could you roll the dice and plan this? You could, and what they'll probably do if he's going to play tonight, I would assume, is you get a nice, warm-up in for him, see how that feels. Obviously, if warm-up's not great, then, you pull him before he gets to the lineup tonight. But they'll probably just test the waters with him. I would assume that he's going to have some limited minutes tonight. But it is pushing a little bit with this injury, and it's always that big debate of, how aggressive are you with these injuries and trying to weigh, where you're at in the playoff series. It's really tough. You can honestly go either way with this. In this scenario, I probably would lean more with resting him. I think you get a lot more out of him by sitting him for another game, and he's ready to go for your homestand would be probably the play that I would do.
Dr. Brandon Seifert's with us, Nebraska orthopedic center at Jock Doc Wednesday. Joel Embiid, our topic, and he's going to give it a go with that sprained right LCL knee issue. What's been ongoing here from medical staff and with Joel himself as far as to get back to this point? You mentioned the PRP injection. What other treatments have been going on? Has it been ice and heat and elevation, or, talk to me a little bit about the medical side. What's been ongoing treatment-wise?
Yeah, so with these, biggest thing is you want to prevent stiffness within the knee. In addition to that, you want to prevent any of that kind of quad musculature shutting down. Those are always our two biggest factors kind of early on. And so for him, definitely want to get it started on some quad sets, working on trying to maintain that quad function and strength that you have. Secondly, you really want to work on managing the swelling aspect of it. That swelling part of it, if you don't manage that well, that can also shut down the quad muscle. Obviously, your ice, your compression. And then the other thing you really work on is your joint mobilization. You want to try to prevent this from getting stiff. So those are kind of your things you're doing, your early modalities. You may limit a little bit of weight bearing for a day or two, kind of recouping from this. Probably put on a brace, take some stress off that LCL. Those are kind of some early things you can do. And then you start throwing in some of those other modalities. They talked about the PRP shot, reasonable. Would not apply a steroid shot in this scenario because that can slow down healing. PRP can supplement things from that perspective. The other thing you really want to be careful with in these types of injuries is making sure you rule out everything else that could be going on within the knee. And I'm not certain if this is the knee he had the meniscus tear on, but obviously if it is, you start to worry about maybe retweak that. The other thing you can see in this scenario is, with the amount of force that it takes to stretch one of those collateral ligaments on the opposite side of the knee, those two parts of the knee come together and you can get basically what I call a cartilage bruise, a chondral contusion. And that, more than sometimes the ligamentous injury itself, can be more painful because that's more responsive to kind of some of the impact things that you're jumping or cutting.
What will he be limited in doing tonight? I know he's a tough dude. I know he's going to try and get his, 13 to 15 rebounds. I know he's going to bang in the paint. But what's going to keep him from looking like the MVP, if that is in case what we see tonight?
Yeah, I think if you start, pushing him a little further out, the basket, and he has to start making some cutting moves, put the ball more up, put the ball on the floor, having to make some more kind of lateral type movements. That's going to irritate him more. If he's doing more kind of strictly jumping up and down, more just grabbing those rebounds, probably not as severe. Again, if that's more on the LCL side, where he may run into trouble is if he does have one of those big kind of cartilage bruises, which they didn't mention, so a chondral contusion. I'm not sure whether or not he has one of those, but that can impact some of the impacts of jumping, landing jump stuff, that kind of stuff. So that could impact more of the jumping aspect, which then both parts of the game would be limited. So my assumption here would be this is probably more purely ligamentous, and they're going to try to roll the dice and maybe put it back in the basket and play in that way.
Dr. Brandon, last thought here, about 45 seconds before we got to get you out. How will this affect Joel Embiid throughout the rest of the playoffs? The Sixers are up one game already on the Celtics. They've stolen a game away from home. You'd think they could be well on their way towards making the Eastern Conference Finals. Does this remain a lingering issue for Joel Embiid for the rest of the postseason?
I would say at least for this series. And if it's truly, a grade one kind of LCL sprain, kind of that low grade level, doesn't have any like a big cartilage contusion, then he probably feels reasonably well after this series. Having an opportunity to maybe rest a few games in between series would, definitely make a big impact for him. The other part of this is, what's the potential here to kind of retweet this. You know, if he goes out and kind of retweets this every time he plays, then absolutely it's going to be one of those lingering things throughout the playoffs.
Dr. Brandon Seifert's with us, Nebraska Orthopedic Center at Jock Doc Wednesday. Dr. Brandon, thanks for a few minutes today.
Hey, Chris, sounds great. You fellas take care.
Hi, this is Carol Turner. Leach Camper Sales is celebrating 60 years as Lincoln's locally owned RV dealership with a massive RV sales event. This is your last chance to get an RV or trade-in before summer starts. Leach Camper has huge discounts on all units. And come join the fun this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sign up to win prizes, including a $100 gift card to their parts department, a Yeti cooler, and more. I'll be there from 10 till noon. Come celebrate 60 years at Leach Camper Sales, 27th and Cornhusker.
The Lincoln Wedding and Celebration Show is back Sunday, July 30th at the Embassy Suites downtown. Visit with a variety of vendors to plan your big day. Admission is free when you register online by July 28th. If your business is interested in hosting a booth at the event, there is still plenty of time. Contact Alpha Media to make a reservation. The Lincoln Wedding and Celebration Show, Sunday, July 30th at the Embassy Suites downtown.
Get your free tickets now at kfornow.com.
Every day, we meet family members who tell us they attended a funeral at Roper & Sons for a parent, a grandparent, or even a great-grandparent. When you've been doing funerals for 120 years in Lincoln, you get to know many generations of families. For us, there is no greater compliment than to know we have built lasting relationships with families over time. We're family-owned and value this more than anything. Our family caring for your family. Roper & Sons, a tradition of caring.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Whether you're buying or selling your first home or your third, let Rich Rodenberg from Coldwell Banker NHS Real Estate guide you through the process. Listen to Start Moving for tips on buying and selling in today's world. Start Moving every Saturday morning at 9:30 on KFOR.
I'm here with John Loeffler of the Nebraska Safety Council, taking a defensive driving course to show how important safety is to us. Well, and the court order.
Todd Spidell, body shop owner, terrible driver.
Okay, turn left at the light.
Right.
No, left.
Right, left.
Slow down.
Sorry, I didn't see the crosswalk. At Spidell Body Works, we care about your safety, and that's why we work hard to make sure that your vehicle is fixed right, so you...
Now let's merge left into the straight lane.
Okay.
Oh, brother, this is not good.
And guess who's also all about safety? Yep, the Nebraska Safety Council. They offer lots of driver education for you or your teenage drivers to keep them safe.
Okay, now pull over and make an emergency stop. I said pull over and make an emergency stop.
Oh, well, back to Spidell.
Accidents happen even to good drivers. If it happens to you, call Spidell Body Works and let us take the ball from
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Check out the podcast. You missed any part of the show or just want to hear it again? Tell a friend. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play for Hail Varsity Radio. We're on in the afternoons. It'll get posted a little bit after 7. Of course, Coffee and Cream weekday mornings, 7 to 10. Check out Damon and Andrew. They're incredible. And you can watch both shows, the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle. Follow that. Watch the show there, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, also where you can stream the show, interact. It's been fun today as we talked about the drink draft. What former Husker would you want to drink with? The Husker Guys Twitter handle put that out a couple, 3 hours ago. That's a fun question to talk about. So tip of the cap for the content, fellas. And we had a great discussion, some phone calls about the backup quarterback involvement, fear, quite frankly, of having to go through another season with a dinged starting quarterback. It's very real.
And we had a point come in from Pete on the phone line here just a little bit ago where he was saying, well, look back at the 1990s. Nebraska didn't have an issue with guys really going down any more than a normal quarterback. And I get his point.
A season with Tommy Frazier.
I get his point in that the types of hits you'll take as a pocket passing quarterback, assuming you have an average offensive line in college football, the individual hits you'll take, while being less frequent, will be more severe. Whenever you know you're getting hit from the blind side, you're getting hit with an arm.
You're going to get hurt in the pocket.
You're going to get hurt in the pocket. And his point was, you know what? If you're going and taking hits out in the field, you get to see where the hits are coming from. You get to position your body before you get hit. You can step out of bounds if you see a hit coming. You can get
hit in
slide.
Practice, so it prepares you for the game. Novel thought.
I see his point. It'll be an interesting thing to track this year in terms of, do Nebraska's quarterbacks get dinged up or injured over the next couple seasons as a result of running the football more? Because there's evidence for each side. Whenever you look at the quarterbacks we list off a little earlier this hour, that, you know what, they didn't have a problem with injuries in college despite the frequency at which they ran, but there's exceptions to every single rule. And it's just gonna be interesting to follow. Will Nebraska with this offense need to have a more competent backup quarterback? Because you look back at the Pliny era and the Mike Riley era, it almost felt like every single year the quarterback was missing 1 or 2 games because of a play where they were out running, scrambling around, getting hit, and now they got to miss a game.
Taylor Martinez, just with his foot and his
the turf toe issue,
the ankle. When I look at some of the dual threat quarterbacks in the NFL, Mahomes, I would classify him as that because he's mobile. All right, so he's in his own deal. But Russell Wilson's not really missed time. He's been mobile, but he's been more of a pocket guy. Did Lamar get hurt in the pocket, or did he get rocked as a scramble guy? Because he missed some time.
I think that was like a play that broke down. He was attempting to scramble, still got hit in the backfield.
He got hit. So it was still on a passing down. It wasn't a designed run. And I look at RG3. How did his career end? Was in the pocket. Colin Kaepernick wrenched his knee in the pocket. From a zone read standpoint, he was really, really good for a long time for the Niners and Harbaugh.
It seems to be those running quarterbacks that don't get hurt know when and how to take hits.
They do.
Jalen Hurts knows when to put his shoulder down and get an extra yard, and he knows whenever to slide.
Yeah, get out of bounds.
A big difference between those guys that get hurt and don't get hurt.
It is. So get the podcast, plenty of quarterback talk today. And tomorrow on the show, Bill Bender, Sporting News. Get into some college football and NFL with him. Gary Barnett will join us, Brandon Vogel tomorrow. Big thanks to Mike Babcock, Evan Bland, Dr. Brandon Seifert, and we will be back with you tomorrow, 4 o'clock on Hail Varsity Radio, the Hail Varsity Radio Network, and give that a follow, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel and Twitter at HVarsity Radio. See ya.